I know that we've been sitting down and having conversation about social transformation and empathy and all of that, education. But that don't mean that we can't rock the party the right way so that we can blend it all together. My name is Daniel Gray Contar, also known as the MC Rep Life, and it is my pleasure to introduce this group. When we have conversation about empathy, one thing that we want to do is bring everybody together to the table to have conversation. That also applies to music. So when we're talking about bringing things together, we have a little taste of that old school boom bap hip hop. We have a little taste of that Chicago house. We have a little bit of that taste of the Chilean roots that are a part of their music as well. Please put your hands together. From Chicago, Chile, and the Bronx, New York, Rebel Diaz!
Peace, peace.
What we're gonna do right here is go back.
What's up, my people? Hey, if you can hear my voice, one hand in the air like this. If you can hear my voice, just one hand in the air like this. Let me get my mic up. All right, yeah, get my mic up. 1, 2. Right here, right here. We don't need y'all to rock with us from the beat drop like this, please, y'all. Like this, come on, come on.
Hey,
yeah.
come on.
Come on. What's up, beautiful people?
Yeah.
Yeah. We're gonna need y'all help, though. It's gonna go like this, yo. Yo, let me hear y'all say stop the war.
Stop the war.
Say let's get free.
Let's get free.
Say it, stop the war.
Stop the war.
Say let's get free.
Let's get free.
Pa'lante en el combate, más que un elefante. No steps back, G1 dice lo que hace. Be about it, ideas into action. Move past the planet,
It's time to save the planet.
Where you standing?
Which way is you going?
Which side
Is you supporting?
They build walls,
We show love.
they honor the dollar.
I'm like peace to the gods.
Toast to the spirits, live life so I feel it. Not stuck or in prison,
On the move like in Philly.
March on the city, my people walk with me. Hands in the air, this life is worth living.
Motivate,
Come on,
move,
come on.
move.
What's your motivation?
Motivate, move,
Yeah,
move.
what's your motivation?
Motivate, move,
Come on,
move.
what's your motivation?
Motivate, move,
Yeah,
move.
what's your motivation?
I'm inspired by a letter I got from Lynn Stewart. I just read it twice, so I know that I'm sure. Know it in my heart that the system is abusive. I also know a movement is more than music. If you can organize 5 people on your block, you should reassess before you bust a ricochet shot. I know it's nice to roll a Dutch and not do much, but conditions getting worse, so I feel we in a rush. Do you know karate?
Come on.
Do you know how to farm?
Come on.
Do you wake up with the sun or with an alarm? If your leadership's lethargic and your game's a moving target, all you gonna do is cast some stupid old charges. Yet if the leadership is militant and ready,
Come on.
prepare for Armageddon for the rich and the greedy. Let's see the proletariat at the front of the line. If you ignore about society,
Come on.
motivate tonight, motivate, move, move.
What's your motivation?
Motivate, move,
Yeah,
move.
what's your motivation?
Motivate,
yo,
move,
yo,
move.
we gonna need your help, my people.
Motivate,
come
move,
on, come
move.
on. We gonna need your help. Hey, yo,
We say people, y'all say power. People, people. We say we want, y'all say freedom. We want. Yeah.
What's up, beautiful people? How y'all doing?
What up, y'all?
Hey, if you don't have a lot of things and you want to move up a little bit, that'd be love. Just because I want to feel my people. Peace to my
Wanna
people
feel
over here in the
y'all
front.
energy.
Make some noise, people in the front. All right.
Feel free to move.
Cool. So, what we want to do today, first of all, thank y'all for being here. Make some noise if you're involved in this conference today. You've been attending the workshops, attending the seminars, building. All right? Yeah. So, first of all, peace to everybody that came today and has stuck around for this cultural component. When we talk about culture, in particular cultures that come from historically marginalized communities, we know that culture is always going to try to be co-opted by corporations that are scared of those messages of resistance in those cultures that come from our communities that have been historically oppressed. So thank y'all for being here today. Make some noise for yourselves, please. So what we want to do today is do a mixture of song and education and be able to build with y'all. And we're going to start a little bit by putting it into a little bit of context of what we do, what this beautiful culture that we're a part of, and the work that we've been doing in the South Bronx for the last 10 years.
We like to say that hip-hop emerges in a post-civil rights era. Who's this brother up right here on the left? What happened to Malcolm? Who's this brother on the bottom left? All right, what happened to Dr. King? I could keep putting names and lists up there. Same thing that happened to Chairman Fred Hampton. Same thing that happened to Bunchy Carter. The list goes on and on. But we can say that when hip-hop emerges in a post-civil rights era, we can say factually that the civil rights era was attacked by COINTELPRO, by intelligence programs, and it was the purpose of the government to try to stop the rise of any type of black messiah folks that were gonna lead. So we can say that the civil rights movement was incarcerated, killed, tortured, murdered in an attempt to silence. This is the historical context in which hip-hop is born, in which there's a void of leadership in our communities. You know what I'm saying? And so this is, hip-hop doesn't come out of nowhere, it comes from this. Let's go into revolution. We're gonna go into the words.
Follow my own path. Mama always told me that. Never let anyone put you down.
On your back.
Be the best in everything you do. Do unto others what you want
Done to you.
Basic training. Human relations based on the way we see our changes. Basic training is filled with anger. But when it's subterranean, New York subway train gets packed to the max. Everyone coming home from working. Now fulfilled, seeking out higher purpose. Searching, asking, where did the time go? Clock out, saving tomorrow. Saving tomorrow, motto that's based on slaves like the South was. And I've changed the best that we owe them. Carno, light bill make us pay up.
Don't they owe that mule and 40 acres?
And acres
And acres to all the natives?
wiped out and put on
Reservations.
So I ain't waiting for a place at the table. I'm going to take it. You can call it a
Payback.
Cause I'm just trying to even the scales, level the
Playing field.
so my kids and your kids can play together well. The other option well, they really don't bid well. We stay on this path and kill ourselves. Cause we farming for profit, surplus stockings, save for fuel while there's still food shortage. Hungry and homeless, while some at home with feet on the ottoman, food in the oven, yeah. Some have it better. Clothes in the dresser, open refrigerator, dinner microwaver. Others are in danger, no aspects of basics. Poor trade is dangerous, high incarceration is no accidente. It's state intention, centers of detention for immigrant offenders. No pediatrician para los niños. If they ain't citizens of Estados Unidos, todos somos hijos, that means I'm a seed of rebel legacy, so I breathe these ideals. Peace with freedom, the seas let's teach them, the poor let's feed them, the wounds let's heal them, y'all. How y'all feeling? Y'all feel good today? Alright?
It is time.
Alright. You feel good? Right here we're gonna have the sounds of this post,
It is time that everybody
this Black Power era that today still informs our hip hop music.
our level. All the people who sacrificed their lives. We understand that fascism is just in America, and we are going to create an American Liberation Front to combat the avaricious businessman, the demagogic politician, and the fascist pig cops who want to brutalize and terrorize.
Come on.
the people.
Yeah.
We ready. We ready. Are we ready? Are we ready? Are we
Ohio, we gonna need your
ready?
help. It's going like this, yo. Let me hear ya say revolution. Say it, revolution.
Revolution.
Say it, revolution.
Revolution.
Come on, revolution.
Revolution has come. Time to pick up the gun. Revolution.
Come on,
Revolution.
Come on, time to pick
Yo.
up the gun. Yeah.
The unemployed graduate, the teachers ain't having it. Cameras everywhere, but the kids is game banging. This ain't a war on drugs, it's a war on the hood. The Democrats and Republicans both up to no good. They both got in bed with the multinationales. They sending us to prison instead of sending us to college. The janitors mop can't clean the situation with a dictator of our nation. It's called a corporation. Swear to God and my mama never supported Obama. I'm a Chicago riot starter like a Haymarket martyr. I'd rather focus on the streets, organizing the tribes.
Come on.
Go against the grain and know that I tried. I'm not into working backwards, I'm talking direct action. I'm talking fighting for freedom for the poor and working class. I won't work for reform. This is for my unborn. I'm putting on a ski mask and this weapon is drawn.
Revolution.
Yeah,
Now say
let
it
me hear
with
you
us,
say
y'all.
revolution.
Come on, now say it with us, y'all.
Revolution.
Ow.
a little louder. Revolution. All together we sing.
Revolution has come. Time to pick up the gun. Revolution.
Come on.
Revolution.
Come on.
Time to pick up the gun.
Yeah. Mucha pistola, we quick to reach for the holster. This is the culture of violence in which I've grown up. They say grow up, make a living in these miserable conditions. Schools look more like prisons and they shutting down the clinics. Employment ain't an option, you ain't got shit what you do. Where you go if you foreclose and your payment past due. Ask you, is it worth it? The earth on this last pulses. All in blood, thirsty, they break for the resources. Days is getting darker, but it's like that I offer. No divide and conquer, I'm talking people power. I was thinking hurry, get your ticket for the future. Identify the problems and move on to the solution. You should be involved, build, show love. That's step number one. Before we fight them guns, run copper, we united. No more internal fighting, might just run up on the precinct. No justice, no peace. This is revolution. Come on, now say it with us, y'all. Revolution. A little louder. Yeah, now say it with us, y'all. Yeah, now. Yeah, our revolution has come. Time to pick up the gun. Come on, revolution. Come on, revolution. Come on, time to pick up. One more time, y'all. We say people, y'all say power. People. We say we want, y'all say freedom. We want. Yeah.
Make some noise for yourselves, beautiful people.
What is the part about hip-hop and immigration? We like to say that hip-hop is a culture that would not exist without immigrants. Okay? I want to make that statement again. That without immigration, hip-hop would not exist. Right? So when we talk about hip-hop and immigration, we talk about the South Bronx being an immigrant community. We'll bring this little slide. Y'all ever heard of the term the South Bronx is burning? Okay.
Why would the South Bronx be burning, y'all? Because it was a hot summer?
Because the buildings were made with mad combustible elements.
Go ahead. Somebody tell us why. Why was the Bronx burning when hip-hop was beginning in the 1970s? Oh, say it out loud. Go ahead. You got to raise your hand in this class. Go ahead.
Money.
I'm sorry?
Y'all didn't have any money.
No money, okay?
Garbage strike, huge out, buildings were disappearing, people were moving out, white flight.
All right?
White flight.
And with the owners themselves, getting out of the office with their suit on and going to burn the building themselves?
They live in Long Island, bro.
Right. And so what they do, they pay out somebody in the hood and be like, burn this building down. And what happened? Why was it? Because my brother said white flight, right? So because of the histories of redlining and racism in the banking industry and in housing, what happens? We have an immigrant population that starts to come in more and more. Jamaicans. We start to have Dominicans, Boricuas. And what happens to the value of the property of the land? It goes down. So these landowners start burning their own buildings down to collect their insurance money. All right? That's what leads these images to be happening. Right here is the president at the time, in about, I think, 76, 77, Jimmy Carter, walking through the South Bronx, commenting on how it looked like a war zone. This could be Iraq. Afghanistan.
What's that flag you see on the upper left? Right? The idea that as immigrant communities, we literally put the flag up to represent the new diasporas that have been created in these communities. You know what I'm saying?
Is it hot cold in Puerto Rico? Is it hot cold in Jamaica? Where do we practice our culture when it's hot outside? Outside!
So it was the idea that not only did we arrive, but we started occupying the public space. The public space that today, 40-something years later, has become completely criminalized with gang injunction laws and broken windows policing. You know what I'm saying? A whole generation of hip-hop, you know what I'm saying, which has become incarcerated.
Who's this thug behind me right here?
Who's this criminal that we have here on the wall?
Hey, so has anybody studied urban planning here? Oh, man. All right. Counting on y'all.
I said, you know, with public policy, along with the landlord, public policy to pull out the resources, pull out the fire departments, let the neighborhood to grant this synergy so they can come in with quote-unquote urban renewal.
That's right.
It's another word for giving white people more power.
Say it.
Absolutely.
Say it. And so, this criminal right here, his name is Robert Moore. This dude is responsible for a lot of the parks in New York City and all that. Great. But he's also responsible, let it run for a little bit. He's also responsible for these tall buildings that, if you're not from New York City, that still was a model that was implemented throughout the entire United States. These tall red brick buildings, the projects. Now today they're being destroyed, right? Because it's a reverse white flight happening. But the creation of these buildings was a brainchild of Robert Moses. And if to this day, you in New York City, each housing development has a precinct downstairs from us. So we start to see how these, my brother said, policies, right? How these policies start to create places of containment of poor people, of black people, of brown people, right? Robert Moses also is responsible for the building of the South Bronx Expressway.
We're gonna do a little exercise to get y'all blood flowing real quick.
My people right here in this row. What's your young brother with the Cleveland shirt? What's your name, G? Speak up, I can't hear you. All right, so Evan. Make some noise for Evan, y'all. Evan, you're gonna be a community leader representing the Jamaican community, all right? That's what you and your row, from you all the way to the back and to your left, my right, y'all are representing the Jamaican community, all right?
Jamaicans, make some noise!
All right? What's the little sister's name right here in the front? What's your name, Linda? What's your name? Eva? Ava? Okay, you're gonna be the leader of the Puerto Rican community in this side. Okay, y'all gonna represent.
Puerto Rico!
Oh, make some noise, Puerto Rico, there you go. All right. My brother with Bakari and the folks over here, y'all gonna represent the amazing community that lives right in my hood by Hunts Point and Longwood, which is the Garifuna community, representing, you know what I'm saying, Honduras and Guatemala, the Afro Central American community in Belize. So that's gonna be y'all represent. Y'all gonna be in the Longwood area. We're gonna have my peoples right here. Y'all gonna represent, you know what I'm saying, Haiti. Y'all gonna represent the Dominican Republic, Cuba. Y'all this whole crew right here is gonna represent the rest of some of the Caribbean fam, right? Then we're gonna have folks in the back. Y'all gonna represent the black community. You know what I'm saying? All right, sisters in the back, okay. All right, but guess what? We Robert Moses and his people's from New York, and I gotta get y'all to move. I need y'all to move because I'm building an express. I'm so sorry. I know you writing. You gotta get up. You gotta go. I'm serious. I'm not even playing games. You gotta go, little man. You and your whole family. You gotta go. You gotta go. I'm sorry, Rhonda. You gotta go. You gotta get up. What's up, my bro? Get up. You gotta go. You gotta go. I am Troy Davis. You gotta go too. You gotta get up. We building a highway down here, man. Listen, this ain't time to take pictures. You gotta get up. You gotta go. You gotta go. You gotta go too, sis. I'm a strong arm you. Don't charge me with assault. Come on, you gotta go. I'm sorry, I'm up there.
Some got up. Okay? We are displacing. Make some noise for those that resisted. Okay?
Some people just initially meant was like, I ain't gonna have my arms on me like for real. I'm out, or they say, you know what I'm saying. Alright? Now, there's others that left that went to other neighborhoods. What happened? Some people went all the way over there. They went all the way to Cleveland. And maybe some of the Puerto Ricans were like, yo, watch out, I need my space. So Jamaican flavor, I'm kind of related, but you know what I'm saying? We don't speak the same language necessarily. Okay, so the creation, let it rock for a little bit. The creation of the South Bronx, of the Cross Bronx Expressway, all right, along with other things, and we're gonna pause that there real quick. The one that says 95, which is the one that cuts straight through the middle, is the Cross Bronx. So you see how it cuts straight through the heart of the Bronx. And this didn't just happen in the South Bronx, it happened in Chicago, it happened in all these urban areas where they say, you know what? There's poor people right here, black people right here, Latino people right here, y'all land has no value in it. Watch out. We're bringing the bulldozers through the name of development. Alright? So specifically in the Bronx, what this does also is that areas that were traditionally more segregated indirectly are forced to come together because of the displacement that was caused by the building of this highway. Now, this created some tensions, right? So, you know, y'all have seen the Hollywood version of it in the movie Warriors, perhaps, right? Or this, that was a more cartoonish depiction, but this idea of ethnic gangs, right? So some of those problems emerged, but we also started to have this emergence of this beautiful culture, right? And some of those initial hard looks and gang fights turned into dance battles, into b-boy battles, into park jams, all right? For those that we displaced, apologies.
And a lot of times, when you question the system and you fight against the system will be quick to dismiss you and say that you're crazy. Or maybe a lot of times the conditions that our communities are living are crazy. And I'd rather roll with a bunch of crazies than with a bunch of sheep. Let's go. I promised I would rap like a superstar rap.
Say it.
Spit like a monster, put myself on the map.
Say it.
First rap in English,
Come on.
then rap in Spanish.
Yo, ¿qué es lo que tú dices,
Boy, I cause damage, international, worldwide resistance in my lyrics. Walking down these main streets to the house of spirits. Yo represento lo que canto en mis canciones. Amor, justicia, hip hop revoluciones. Listen here,
Come on.
we done preaching to the choir.
Yep.
We stayed on the block, took the neighborhood higher.
Come on.
I guess I just listened to the little voice speaking. The one that said, never deny what you seeking. It made me a believer que todo es posible. Mi flow como la lucha siempre sigue. They call it ADT when you're wildin' and don't listen. They make you think you're crazy when you question a system. Crazy, cause I look different than you. Spark V out the corner of your peripheral. Crazy, like I'm the violent one, living in the empire that was born out the gun. Now that's crazy. What I'm supposed to do when they shut the store down and there ain't no food. Now that's crazy. Like I'm the violent one, living in the empire that was born out the gun. Crazy,
like I lost my marbles, like all I wanna do is criticize and argue. Like my screws loose, cause I say what I want to,
say what I got to, es por eso que canto.
Queremos un cambio,
En eso andamos.
yo creo caminos,
No
no
creo en obstáculos.
You say I'm loco and need a doctor.
I say let's be realistic and do the impossible.
Check it out,
I'm on a higher plane.
Some say it ain't sane,
I say it's okay.
Let your mind sway,
Ride the wave.
Better that than all land
And stuck in one place.
They want you
Sedated, drugged and medicated.
More paper in the pocket
Hood of drug fabricators.
All indicators show us
Society sick.
Disease by greed,
That's the diagnosis.
That's
Crazy, cause I look different than you. Spark V out the corner of your peripheral. That's crazy, like I'm the violent one, living in the empire that was born out the gun. And that's crazy. What I'm supposed to do when they shut the store down and there ain't no food. Now that's crazy, like I'm the violent one, living in the empire that was born out the gun. Now that's crazy. Now that's crazy. Now that's crazy.
We talked about the South Bronx being an immigrant community, and one of the most important contributions came from Jamaican boy DJ Cooher. Raise your hand if you have never heard of DJ Cooher. Oh, you gonna learn? Okay? this brother, this uncle, this father to us, a friend in the South Bronx. And to this day, he's still DJing. So Kool Herc is considered one of the pioneers of hip-hop culture. He was known as Hercules because he's a big dude, number one. To this day, he's like 60-something. And he's butt, right? But more importantly, DJ Kool Herc pioneered the Jamaican sound system tradition.
Now, as you can see by the size of the speakers,
So what if we came to the party with these speakers? All right, go ahead.
so Herc started showing up with these speakers. You know? Now, I'm gonna break some down, y'all. There's a tradition behind this, right? Say there's a male, what's your name? Kim. Shame, bro.
Yeah.
All right, so say we back in Jamaica and Jeff and Kim are in a political battle for political position. Kim shows up with these speakers and her fundraiser chilling. And Jeff shows up with that across the street. What do you think is gonna happen? People might leave your event. Kool Herc started doing that to other DJs in the Bronx. I also know the fact that he still has these speakers in storage, along with his car, his iconic car that he drives around. But what, that dude on the top, he's not like a little guy. He's an average sized man. So you can see that at least you got a couple of towers. So the Jamaican sausage tradition came into the culture as well.
All right, so Herc was he bringing it to the club? No. He was bringing it to the park. When they did these things at the park, well, first of all, what stands out to y'all from this picture right here? Hot. Oh, it's hot?
What made you think it was hot?
All right, well, it was hot, right? But then also you gotta cool the amplifier down. If not, it's gonna blow. Your party's over. What about the electricity? Where were they getting it from? Expropriation. Kick down the light pole, open the little thing, and it's crazy because I'm a Bronx transplant. I've been in the Bronx for like 15 years now. Well, I guess that's most of our lives. But this summer, it was crazy because it was super hot outside, and I had like some of the newer immigrant communities, and they still do it. Like it still goes down. Like I was learning, like, yo, how you do it, mine? You want to strip the wires, connect it, be careful because you can die. All right? So the electricity is coming from the light pole. All right, how about permits? Assembly permit?
Sound permit?
He needed a whole bunch of permits to do stuff. Nah. All right? So no permits, they take the electricity. What else that's in the picture? Somebody recently, we've been showing this picture for a few years now. Somebody pointed out something new that I hadn't even noticed before. You got the fan. You got the fan, right? So, how about in the background? What you got in the background? You got kids! Kids! So, these events, you know, we had this notion that there's certain culture that's only for, we got to segment our population only for the kids, only for the old people, only for the, you know. These parks and these jams in the park was multi-generational. You had the doñas, the viejitas, the old ladies, you had the babies in the cut playing handball, playing double dutch while the music was rocking. All right? Again, this idea of taking public space and not asking permission, not getting no permits, doing it. And the act of putting that together is as organic, organizing as you can get. Alright? Because you gotta coordinate. You gotta tell the B-boys, you gotta tell the MCs, you gotta be like, yo, you bringing the sound? I bet. Who bringing the table? Who bringing the fan? What's next? Okay, all right, we gotta get your line.
So I want to share this because I'm still suffering from the cold outside. We were just in Puerto Rico this whole week, building with Rocksteady crew. And one of the things, our my family's from Chile, and one of the things that when I was coming up, I got into hip hop through being a b-boy. An interesting thing to share too is when you talk about hip hop and it being a culture of immigrants, it's also a culture that through U.S. military intervention has traveled across borders. In Chile, hip hop arrived when young brothers from the Bronx and Brooklyn that were in the military were sent over to Chile. And while they in the base, this kid from the hoods in the Bronx, in Santiago, looking through the fence, and they seeing black and brown soldiers breakdance.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And then that's how, and then I get Pop Master Fable and Mr. Wiggles eventually ended up being on Sábado Gigante, which is a Chilean show, and that's pretty much hip-hop arrived first as electro dancing, right? But there was a huge influence from the Puerto Rican community in b-boy culture. We had that clip over the show? I want to show y'all real quick. It's a clip that I found super dope, which shows that there was a lot of influence in mambo in some of the dancing that was going down in some of the b-boys. So there's a clip real quick from mambo to hip-hop, which shows you the influence of mambo on some of the b-boys and maybe some of the connections with, once again, immigrant influence.
We're gonna kill the audio so we can just focus on the movements. So that's the mambo, right?
In the 50s.
No, that's James Brown, cuz.
Oh, what verse? Also?
All right.
That's James Brown, too.
For sure.
Mom.
I'm not sure that's James Brown, baby.
Hey, but I feel what you're saying, because when we talk to the old, you can pause it, right? So when we talk to the old school b-boys, right? They're like, yeah, that's cool. And we also had the influence of James Brown. And we also had the influence of the Kung Fu movies, right? That you pay, right? And they were all the rage during this time. And obviously also our traditional native African dances. All right, so these are war dances that have found a space, right, in this new culture that was emerging in hip hop culture.
So when it comes to culture, there's a saying. A lot of times they try to tell, oh, this culture's from over there, and that culture's from over here. So this next song we have is called Soy de aquí y soy de allá. That's Spanish for I'm from here, but I'm from there too. And that's kind of the connection that we make. So this is called Soy de aquí y soy de allá.
Can we try that? Soy de aquí. Soy de allá.
That's what I'm talking.
Let's go.
Yeah.
They can build walls. They can build borders. U.S., Mexico, Palestine. Today we tear down those walls, tear down those borders. Citizen of this globe, y'all, come on. Me dicen que no soy de aquí, que no me quieren porque saben que yo
soy de allá.
Quizás no entienden porque creen que yo
soy de aquí.
What you don't get it, homie, porque yo no
soy de allá, no se deja aplicar.
Yo mamá exiliado, papá exiliado, cabrón creado en diferentes lados. Uno en Londres rojo el pasaporte, el otro nace en territorio hostil. Gringolandia donde el dólar manda y no se habla de la desigualdad. En la guata del mismo imperio que buscó matar a mis viejos. Es un peso que yo llevo dentro. En mi mente siempre presente, está dentro del vientre de esa bestia, lo que te enseñan cómo te afecta la materia, el consumismo, cada uno brega por sí mismo. Sigo la busca, la verdad, soy de aquí y soy de allá. No solo soy de aquí, también me quieren porque saben que yo soy de allá. Quizás no entienden porque creen que yo soy de aquí. What you won't get it, homie, porque yo no soy de allá, no se deja aplicar.
Inglaterra da noviembre, exactamente el 19. El de Cueve, llega el Rodri. What up, Mickey Man?
What up, homie?
Casa Chile, los 80, Ciudad de Viento representa. Fue difícil el exilio, la policía, mi enemigo. De cada día en mi camino, muévete siempre, mi grito. Sobrevivo, terrible lloro, terrible estilo. Mi sonido es hip hop, watch alone, that's how we rock. Shot City, Peñalolén, South Bronx también. Soy de aquí.
Quizás me quieren porque saben que yo
soy de allá.
Quizás no entienden porque creen que yo
soy de aquí.
What you won't get it, homie, porque yo no soy. We gonna need your help. Say this with me, y'all. Say yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Whoa,
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 whoa.
Say yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Say soy soy de aquí.
Soy de aquí.
Say soy de allá.
Soy de allá.
Make some noise for yourselves, y'all. So, just to rehash real quick, we originally from Chicago, and we been in New York and the Bronx for the last 14, 15 years. But our parents are from Chile, and in Chile there was a coup in 1973. September 11th, the first September 11th, how we like to say. And it's crazy because there's similar images where there was planes, US-sponsored, CIA-supported warplanes bombing the presidential building of the president at the time, Salvador Allende, who was the first democratically elected socialist president in the Western Hemisphere. Now, Allende did some things that the multinationals based in the United States wasn't really feeling. Because what happens to all these factories that used to employ our young people in the Bronx in the 1950s and 60s? They went somewhere else. Why? Cheap labor, no environmental laws, child labor, no unions, avoiding taxes. All right, but they had needed a protection racket, and that protection racket was the U.S. military. And so our parents' case wasn't any different than some refugees and children of refugees that we encountered in Chicago growing up that were from Guatemala, Nicaragua, Palestine, Puerto Rico. Refugees from all of these national liberation struggles, the self-defense of these wars of aggression, right, that the United States embarked upon. This is an old map, so you can add like 3 or 4 or 5 more countries. So right, we recently in 2009, there was a coup in Honduras. To this day, they're still trying to do coups in Ecuador and Venezuela. All right, and so when we talk about why was these immigration patterns happening, all right, is we usually lock it into 3 categories: love, work, and war, right? Because sometimes you have people who here has an immigrant family. All right, somebody that raised their hand, tell me why your parents or your peoples came here to the United States. My bro. Work. American dream, all right? Sometimes it starts with work, and sometimes it be just one member of the family. And then eventually the rest of the family join, right? So that's love, bringing people together. You said work, the idea of economic opportunity, and then war, right? Which is usually a result of U.S. aggression in the global South. All right? Now, the reason why we try to link this together with Payama be like, well, what that got to do with hip hop? You know? And when we talk about the last 40 years of what is hip hop culture, the lifespan of hip hop culture has been changes in the global economy that have affected us on a local level, right? Because of things like this. So you had the factories leave areas like the Bronx, Chicago, Detroit. You created a space where there was a lack of leaders by attacking our civil rights and black power leaders, right? And so what happens? You have this group of young people that doesn't have that levels of unemployment. I hated math class, but we gotta look at some graphs real quick. Show seconds. Let it rock for a second, Joe. You're gonna have to forward it, do a little. Yeah, hold on. I'm gonna just real quick. I hate mathematics. I feel like I started learning math in 7th grade. These terrible schools that they privatized and created charter schools. Let's take the year 1970, the decade that hip hop began. This is a simple graph that shows the total number of manufacturing jobs in the United States. What happened to the jobs? They went up? No. They went down. All right? So that's one marker. Manufacturing jobs going down. Pause. This nice little graph right here shows 2 lines. Salaries in the light blue and productivity in the dark blue. This right here is the year 1970. Up until 1970, you had productivity and wages was right on together. Making more things, the people was making more money. Again, let's head up 1970 as our year of mark, the decade that hip hop began. What happens after 1970? What happens to the wages? Flatline. What happens to the productivity? Still going on. Taking the last drop of blood from the workforce. And one more. Again, we're taking this. Keep going. We don't want to see this dude. Keep going. Bob, one more. All right, 1970. This is when people were incarcerated in this country. Again, we look at 1970, the year that hip hop, the decade that hip hop began. Up until 1970 is relatively stable. What happens after that? All right, so what we see in the lifespan of hip hop culture, what we've had is a whole generation that's been subjected to this mass incarceration state. We have young people, particularly black young people, Latino young people, poor young people, that have been deemed disposable in the new global economy. We don't need you. That's what they're telling us. And so, what we've seen in those last 40 years, just in the last 20 years, we mentioned we're from Chicago. I remember Chicago growing up in the 90s. They created a law called the anti-gang loitering law.
We would get locked up every other week
And what that was
for just hanging.
was that the police had began to have the right to tell a group of 3 or more people in a public space to disperse. If you didn't follow those directions, you were accused of gang activity and you was locked up. So if me, my brother Rob, DJ Illinois, chilling on the corner, and Illa, he a beatboxer, y'all don't know, he don't have a beatbox for y'all later. But if he's beatboxing and we rapping and we ciphering, get locked up. I know I got peoples in Cali, right? They had they dealt with what was it they called? They started tracking people in certain neighborhoods and taking the names. Right? It was gang injunction, right? The gang injunctions, where they started literally going name by name and taking people's pictures and creating a database, essentially criminalizing the entire neighborhood. Now it's a little easy. Now they just go on Facebook and try to catch people for self-snitching, right? Real tough. Gotta be careful of the enemy's tools. So we say this, and a lot of times we stay harping on the problems. You know what I'm saying? But we want to kind of show this context of why we find ourselves where we at today. Right? And this generation that created this culture has been subjected to some of the worst terror, right? We talk about real terrorism, right? It's a generation that survived an attempt at genocide. You know what I'm saying? Because that's really what it is when we talk about taking people's housing, when we talk about defunding schools and the firehouses. You know what I mean? And that's what we stand at today.
This next joint is called
Which Side Are You On? And it's based on a song by Florence Reese, who was unifying with the miners who were on strike. So when we talk about hip hop too, we also talk about people that work. You know what I'm saying? I know I live in Hunts Point, the poorest congressional district in the whole U.S., and every single morning I go outside like 7 in the morning and I see a working community, a working class community here. And so when we talk about organizing too, we also incorporate the hymns of the unions and the labor songs into our music. This is Which Side Are You On? Let's go.
We believe there was a line drawn a long time ago. We need to be clear which side we stand on. We're here with the people. See, I gotta draw the line, I can't take it no more. If you ain't down with revolution, what you waiting for? Making money for suckers and not communities poor.
ripping flags off of coffers, man, this ain't our war. Colonized and terrorized by the world's biggest killers. The U.S. government, the biggest weapon and drug dealers. Filling prisons with children, incarcerating the future. IG and Facebook got us stuck on computers, stuck on stupid bumping music that's abusive to the shortest. The nonsense that they spitting, we just listen and absorb it. I've been dormant, I'm awoke, and I'm a giant, I'm ready. With the Aqua and Oaxaca, and we hold the machetes. I ride car like Palestinian children holding slingshots. Shots with every single kid that's down for hip-hop. The culture, the life, what it really stands for. This music is resistance, it's the voice of the poor. On the side of the workers, the teachers and lunch ladies. On the streets of brown mommies raising our brown babies. I'm with youth organized, cleaning up the Bronx River. Caim Escalante when I stand and deliver. I'm with Evo Morales, man, he running Bolivia. Distribution of the land so we can all live bigger. I'm with Hugo and Fidel, Grandmaster and Melly Man. With the Panthers up in Queens, justice for Sean Bell. I'm with Camacho Negron, with Ojeda Rios. Freedom for Oscar Lopez, time to get an appeal. With a Boo Jamal, with a Sada Shakur. With the compas in the Mocali, getting a plenty more. Now, which side are you on? Shy City. Say it, which side are you on? The South Bronx. Come on, which side are you on? Con Puerto Rico. Hey, which side are you on? Con Palestina. Yeah, which side are you on? Con Venezuela. Hey, which side are you on? Con todo Cleveland. Hey, which side are you on? Tamir Rice. Which side? Now I'm for telling the truth, exposing the lies. Think about them dead soldiers when you're driving your ride. The people die for the oil and Daddy Bush's revenge. I'm with the widows, the children, and the lonely best friends. For families staying together as one. I'm not for the raids or the deportations. I'm with Victor Toro and the MIR. So watch out for them snitches in that unmarked car. And for Lil Salito, we gon' fight for your moms. So we gon' shout her out twice in one song. I'm for 12 million workers and then Vida Adiaga. For a world without borders and a better tomorrow. Better tomorrow.
All right, so real quick, we want to just show, we already showed y'all a lot of the problems, right? But we always have a motto around the work that we do. It says, you can't just oppose, you gotta propose. Because if not, we just, we just out here making noise and we're not coming up with no solutions. So I just want to share a real quick video of some of the community work. In 2008, in one of those abandoned factories that had left because of neoliberal economic policies, we decided to get a crew of different folks from our community, and we decided to take over an abandoned factory to turn it into a multi-use hip-hop autonomous community space. We held that space from 2008 to 2013 for 5 years. And then we were violently evicted by New York City Police Department and federal marshals and city marshals. I'm gonna show y'all a little bit about the space, and then we'll wrap up with that, and we'll do another song. All right. The Bronx, New York. Scratch that. Hold on. Is it the video's not coming up? All right, we're gonna skip that because we have technical difficulties. No worries, bro, it's all good, bro, it's all good. All right, so we're gonna skip that, The no human? All right, so what I want to show you too is that the power of art, you know what I'm saying? To give y'all the example, on this building that we had taken over, we had a rooftop that was 70 feet long, 70 feet wide, and 12 feet tall, that you could see all the way from the Cross Bronx Expressway, the very expressway that we're talking about, that divided the community. So for us, it was a big victory in that sense, and we were able to use our graffiti skill sets. We're not able to show that either. The projection is down. The projection is down? Yeah. All right, the projection is down. We're just gonna get it with some music then. Okay, we're back. Are we back with the video? All right, we're gonna show y'all the video. But I want to show you too that the part of doing hip hop is that before we have no technology. So without no video, we can show what is still going on. All right, hold on. Let's check it out now.
The Bronx, New York, the South Bronx, the boogie down, the X, the birthplace of hip-hop culture. When more than 30 years ago, a generation of young people abandoned by society took it upon themselves to create beauty from their despair, to paint trains with their names and mix bricks while B-boys and B-girls did their thing on the dance floor. Hip-hop, born in the 1970s in conditions of high unemployment, burned down buildings and underfunded schools. Hip-hop culture has spawned what is today a multi-billion-dollar rap industry. Yet almost 40 years since its birth, for many in the Bronx, conditions of poverty and inequality haven't changed. The RDAC opened in 2008 in an abandoned candy factory in the South Bronx. Initiated by members of hip-hop group Rebel Diaz and a collective of young people from throughout the Bronx and Upper Manhattan, the RDAC was formed. The space was built and developed with the help of donated materials and labor from local carpenters, electricians, and artists volunteering their time and talents for a collective community effort. The result? A 5,000 square foot performance and multimedia space dedicated to using hip-hop culture as a means for education and self-empowerment in our community. Through media and political education workshops, performances, we aim to provide a free, safe space for young people, from poetry to theater, dance, producing music, editing film. Our space has served as a multi-purpose resource for creative young people. Since 2008, we have served over 10,000 participants in our programs. At RDAC, we feel that by promoting a sense of community, ownership, and responsibility through the arts, we can begin to more effectively address the larger issues in the South Bronx and beyond. For more information on our space and our work, please visit www.rdacbx.org. Follow us on Twitter at rdacbx.
Yeah. So real quick, because we're gonna finish up with this last song. I wanted to share this. If there's any lesson in political education that we learned through this work, is that everybody in your community has value. And I share that because I'm gonna tell y'all the story, and then we're gonna get out of here. I had a brother on my block named Tito. There's a Tito on every block in the Bronx, and in Brooklyn, and in the Heights, and in Harlem. Tito was that dude, you know, he got that voice, "What's up, Poppy? Let me help you out real quick." And I'm not gonna front. Even with all the political education I have, I was still like, "Come on, Tito, man, like, you know, we trying to do work." And Tito kept on insisting, like, "Yo, I want to help." And it turns out that Tito was a master electrician that was on hard times. And that was the main skill set that we needed in this abandoned factory that we were trying to work in, because we didn't have no electricity. When I tell you this brother went in there and hooked it, we even had the dim lights in the studio, he hooked it up, you know? And what I share is that he may not have perhaps been able to quote Malcolm X or Angela Davis, but he had a skill set and he was down to do the work. You know what I'm saying? And I share that, all right? I share that because if we really talking about freedom, okay, and we're really talking about changing the world that we live in, we gotta start with the people that's right in front of us. A lot of times we be having these wild dreams of you gonna be in choppers in the jungle and shit, wearing a mask, being a revolutionary, when the most simple is right in front of you, you know? And I share this, like if you call yourself an organizer, if you be on Twitter talking about how you organize and how you do your thing, right? I want you to go home and reflect. How many people can you mobilize from your immediate block? You know what I'm saying? Not in the activist social center that you hang out at. How many people can you really organize? You know, people that's working, you know what I mean, that maybe don't have the time or maybe are undocumented and can't go to the protest with you. or maybe really just don't have the time because they're trying to make ends meet to feed their kids. You know what I'm saying? And I share that because we can't get lost in this, you know what I mean? In this me world of activism that I feel a lot of us be stuck in. You know what I'm saying? Millennials, I got love for y'all. I don't think I'm too old to be a millennial. But what I will share is that it's important, you know what I'm saying, that the work be done locally, thinking globally, but attacking and going hard on our block. You know what I'm saying? So with that, that's just the, we were like, man, the presentation show, we gonna try to do the best we can, share some of our work. It's a little bit of the work that we do, but that's just really the main idea. If we can't just oppose, we gotta propose. You know what I'm saying? And when we do that, we gotta count that everybody in our block, everybody in our community has something to offer. You know what I'm saying? We may not all be revolutionaries, but we could all commit revolutionary acts. You know what I'm saying? So with that, let's get on our feet. Let's celebrate this. Hip hop is not only about resistance, it's also about celebration. This song is called Get on the Floor. All I ask is that maybe y'all dance a little bit with us.
Come on,
shake some of the energy off.
Let's go.
I want to publicly apologize to the sister earlier. I apologize for grabbing you by the arm. It made me feel real bad. I was just trying to do the presentation, but apologize for grabbing your arm, sis. Mad love. Let's do this. Get on the floor. This is some of our music. We're Rebel Diaz, y'all. Mad love for being here and being with us. Shout out to my brother Bakari for having us, and to the sister Rhonda Williams as well. Mad love. Let's do this, y'all. Make some noise for DJ Illinois on the ones and twos, y'all.
DJ Illinois on the ones and twos, y'all. We are Rebel Diaz, Raw Stars, G1. We've been blessed to be here with y'all today. We represent Chicago, South Bronx, Chile, Global South, worldwide. Basi, come on. Set.
Everybody, get on the floor and do yo. I lo tuyo, I lo tuyo, I lo tuyo, I lo tuyo.
Hey, get on the floor, come on, and do your thing, do your thing, do your thing. Hey, my thing is move the people like Federal Visu to Puerto Rico. Libre y soberana, más respeto pa' Pachamama. Tierra del Fuego hasta Alaska, Tierra Unida, Simón Bolívar, Gringolandia, Quito, como la capital de Ecuador. Get on the floor, wherever you're from, wherever you're at. Raise your glass, shake that that's my dome, that's my jam. Drop the record, bring it back. Oh man, she ain't looking. I see you footworking. Move something, hit the flow. Say something, spit your flow. Oh, everybody, get on the flow. Come on, and do yo. I lo do yo, I lo do yo, I lo do yo, I lo do yo. Just get on the flow and do your thing. Do your thing, do your thing, do your thing, do your thing. Hey, get on the flow and do your thing. I lo do yo, I lo do yo, I lo do yo, I lo do yo. Just get on the flow and do your thing. Do your thing, do your thing.
I gotta get it.
Come on.
I gotta get it.
Come on.
I gotta get it. I'ma get it from the go. I gotta get it. I'ma get it from the go. I gotta get it. I'ma get it from the go. Gotta take the go to another level. What up?
Look, my thing is mobilizing, vocalizing, it's uprising, it's not surprising, it's what I do. Break it down like a B-boy crew. Break it down like a B-girl do. Break it down for the people do. My flow for the skater scene, for the migrant worker trying to chase that dream. I ain't got time to waste, gotta train cause I'm on my freedom chase.
Come on.
I ain't got time to waste, I gotta train cause I'm on my freedom chase.
Everybody, get on the floor
and do yo. I lo do yo, I lo do yo, I lo do yo, I lo do yo. Yeah, get on the floor and do your thing. Do your thing, do your thing, do your thing, do your thing. Hey, get on the floor and do your thing. I lo do yo, I lo do yo, I lo do yo, I lo do yo. Body, get on the floor and do your thing. Do
we
your
gonna need
thing,
y'all help,
do
my
your
people.
thing.
Thank y'all for being today.
Do
like
your
this.
thing.
When I say every, y'all say body.
Everybody,
Everybody. I say get on the, you say flow.
get on the flow.
Get on the
flow.
I say every, y'all say body.
Everybody, everybody.
I say get on the, you say flow.
Get on the flow.
Get on. Ha, 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 ha. Say go DJ, go DJ, go. Go DJ, go DJ, go. Ha. Peace and love, y'all. That's DJ Illinois. Raw Stars.
And my brother G1.
We are Rebel Diaz.
Much
Blessings.
love, y'all. Peace.
Hip hop revolution. Peace and love. One.
Microphone check 1 2. Once again, y'all, give it up for Rebel Diaz. So we want to thank y'all once again so very much for coming out to this event. What we want to do is, if y'all are down, I don't know if any of you have any questions for Rebel Diaz, but they are more than happy to have a little bit of conversation with you, yeah?
CDs and stuff, T-shirts and CDs they want to support. If y'all want to support, we have a merch table too, supporting some of the work that we've been doing. We got CDs, T-shirts, hoodies, and everything for sale.
This message is brought to you by
Self-sustainability, not by capitalism. And conversation is free, so we're gonna be up there chilling. If y'all want to come and build with us, we'll be up there. Cool. All right, y'all. Free hugs too, my brother.
So I think that's what we'll do. We'll have everybody have conversation outside. We'll be in the back. Please check them out with the merch for sure, for sure. Thank y'all so much. Much love and peace.
Rebel Diaz said they are willing to answer some questions from the audience like we've been doing all day. And then we want to make sure we support them at the merchandise table. And they will be there to hug and love and share and question and answer and all of that. So if you have some questions, we will have time to do that. Brother Daniel Gray Contar will lead that for us. We'll do that for a little bit, and then we'll call it a day. Yeah, right here in this space.
Okay. So why don't we have the folks that want to have conversation with us come on down to the front, and let's just chop it up. Yeah, we'll just cipher it up right in the front. So, brethren, I'll start. Indeed. So I'll start just by asking you all a few questions, and then maybe we can just pass the mic. And then if other people have questions as well, then they can join in, and we'll just all pass the mic right here together in community. So, brethren, I guess my first question for you all is, I always like to try to start with a definition of terms just so that we're all kind of on the same page. So my first question is a question that a lot of my students ask me when we talk about hip-hop. What is the difference, so we're all clear, between rap and hip-hop? What's the difference between rap and hip-hop?
Well, hip-hop to me is a culture made up of, some, we could debate 5, 6, some say 4 elements, right? In which rap is part of that culture. So you have the MC who raps, you have the DJ, shouts to DJ Illinois. You have the B-boy and B-girl, right? And then you have the graffiti art, the visual representation of it. You know what I'm saying? The fifth element, you know what I'm saying, through the Universal Zulu Nation, Africa Bambaataa, brought up is knowledge. The idea, what we shared today was the fifth element, right, of hip-hop as well. Well, I think today we kind of shared a little bit of all of them, you know?
Yes, sir.
But so for me it's that, and I think that also rap, you know what I'm saying, like, I think KRS said it once, like, rap is what you do, hip-hop is what you live. You know what I'm saying? And I think that to me there's a clear separation between hip-hop culture, which is what we talked about today with all the roots, the Kool Hercs and the Bambaatas and the Pioneers. And then you also have, the rap, the corporate-driven rap music industry, which ultimately, like many other cultures that come from communities that are oppressed, corporations are quick to come in like vultures and, co-opt those cultures, which is why in the music that you hear on mainstream radio, when you stop and really listen, what you're hearing are values that are values of capitalism. You're hearing consumerism, individualism, materialism, misogyny, you know what I'm saying? So we're clear that, it's not that hip-hop, I don't really like the term conscious hip-hop, but it's not that, hip-hop that's speaking truth to power doesn't exist. It's just that the corporations have zero interest in giving that hip-hop light. And that doesn't mean that wasn't before, because when we talk about Public Enemy and X-Clan and Poor Righteous Teachers, these are groups that were rocking stadiums. This wasn't, Rebel Diaz rocking in front of 20 people in the South Bronx Community Center. This was stadiums. And so we share that because we're clear that there's certain moments in which we're clear that corporations saw that the power of hip-hop and purposefully set out to take it over.
Just a quick detail on the rap music industry. Y'all heard of Interscope Records? Interscope is responsible for NWA, 50 Cent, moving on down the line, G-Unit, a lot of a lot of what would be called like the gangster rap, and Interscope is a subsidiary of a larger company, a parent company called GE. GE is one of the largest investors in private prisons in the entire world. So what we hear, and this is what our homeboy Sandman, shouts to the Queens, New York, he calls these songs that we hear on radio, they're like jingles for the prison industry.
Right.
They're like commercial jingles. And I say it half with a half smile, but it's sad because that's genocidal propaganda. You know what I'm talking about?
So my next question, if you don't mind, I'd love to ask one more question and then pass it on over to the audience, for sure. So this conversation has been about social transformation, education, but also empathy. And for me, oftentimes when I think about hip-hop, or when I think about what is comprised of hip-hop culture, empathy isn't necessarily one of the things that comes to mind. So my question for both of you brothers is there space in hip-hop for empathy? And what does that look like? And what is empathy within the context of hip-hop culture? What does that look like for you as revolutionary hip-hop artists working from the ground up? Does that question make sense?
Yeah, I mean, when you say empathy, it's pretty much the feeling like if you see, I say it in a lyric, I say, I do this for the feeling I get. When I'm riding on the train and I see a homeless vet, and everybody look at him like he the scum of the earth, you know what I'm saying? I feel his pain because he put in that work. He went to Vietnam, he shot the Viet Cong, only to come home and have his country treat him wrong, you know? Yeah, and so for me, empathy is kind of like that feeling, the idea that you could feel in, in your heart when you see somebody else going through it or somebody else suffering, And I think that, like, to me, and I'll be clear, hip-hop, a lot of the negative things in hip-hop are representations of a larger culture of capitalism. We gotta be clear, like when we talk about people, there's violence in hip-hop, there's, like, there's violence in American culture, it's based on violence, There's misogyny and patriarchy in hip-hop. We live in the empire of the largest misogyny and patriarchy, But I also say that because I think that at times in hip-hop, there's the idea that empathy is seen as a sign of weakness.
Right.
Whereas we gotta start flipping that on his back and be like, no, empathy is a sign of strength. Because if you're strong enough to feel for somebody else, you know what I mean? What's the next step is to act for that someone else. So I think that definitely as hip hop artists, I always try to figure this out because we're movement babies. You know what I mean? So I grew up with feelings of empathy. Like I grew up, in under the table of political meetings in which it was refugees, like we were sharing earlier, from all over. Palestine, South Africa, Central America, you know what I'm saying? So for us, empathy was something that we always grew up with, and for us, it's always been a form of strength. You know what I'm saying? But I do think that just in general, in hip hop, you know what I mean? Like, because of the conditions of our community, a lot of times it's almost seen as a sign of a form of weakness to feel for somebody else. Right. Yeah.
Right on. All right. Thank you so much for that, Brethren.
Oh, for sure.
So let's entertain some questions from the audience, yeah?
I had a couple of questions. One is just kind of practical. If you want to get away or expand from the main street, where do you go? How do you get what Daniel's referring to as conscious hip hop? Where do you get that?
I mean, I think that like 10, 15 years ago, that might have been a hard question to answer. But now we're in an era where technology has made the world a lot smaller, and that really, there's a wide, variety of amazing hip hop that is literally a click away. You know what I'm saying? So I think that like
I'll shout some names out just on the top of my head. Tef Poe, The Reminders, Jaziri X. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Bamboo, Filipino brother from the West Coast.
YC the Cynic.
YC the Cynic from the Bronx. Rocky Rivera. Kendrick Lamar I think is dope. Immortal Technique. You know what I'm saying? I mean, there's Nairobi Sailor. For example, like the other day, we were putting together a list of like female MCs. There's so many dope female MCs, Nairobi Sailor, Rocky Rivera, Who else?
Asia Black from the Reminders.
Asia Black from the Reminders is super dope. Rhapsody, who's down with Ninth Wonder, she's an amazing MC.
Ana Tijoux, yeah.
Ana
our
Tijoux
sister.
from Chile, that's my sister. That's right. Represent.
Yeah, we can make a list for you. We'll do it in the back. I'm with that.
I'm down to write some for sure. Yeah, that'd be cool.
My other question is, this kind of bothers me, irks me when I travel across the country, conflict between brown people, especially when I'm out west, and there's a lot of Hispanic, Latinos, a lot of blacks together, but they're always beefing. I don't understand that. I wonder, is there some area of hip hop that's bringing their microscope or periscope or magnifying glass to bear on that?
I think that, for example, and I'm glad you brought that up because it's interesting. We grew up in Chicago, and in Chicago we have a lot of those. Chicago's one of the most segregated cities in the world. So, for example, you want to hang out with Puerto Ricans, you go to Humboldt Park. You want to hang out with the Mexican community, you go to Pilsen and La Villita. You want to hang out with the black community, go to the West Side, go to the South Side. And I think that, like, what we're clear on that is these are divide and conquer tactics that the system places upon us. I think in the West Coast, you also have prison. The prison, you know what I mean? For example, I got a homie that was Mexican. They used to hang out with the black community. He got locked up. And he was like, damn, I got to go hang out with my people now. Because they was, hey, you know? And I think that that prison culture a lot of times ends up spilling over. You have young people that are going in and out of jails, and I think that especially on the West Coast, and in the West Coast, there's even a norteño and sureño problem within the Mexicans. The Mexicans from the South are beefing with the Mexicans from the North. So even then, I mean, we're clear these are divide and conquer tactics. In other cities, for example, when Ferguson was going on, we showed up. And folks were like, man, we need y'all to come build with the Latino community. And we went and looked for the Latino community and realized there was no Latino community. There was like a small version of Ferguson, and when we went to go build, it was a very new migrant Latino community, undocumented, that really wasn't in a position to, to take the streets. So I think that it's also just seeing how different, the different geographies. For example, in New York, you can't come with that, black and brown division because the majority of the brown people are all really black. When we talk about Afro-Caribbean, you know what I mean? My wife is Afro-Dominican. We went to the South in Atlanta, and they could not believe that she was, they were like, you from the South? And she was like, no, I'm from the Dominican Republic in the South. But, so I think that there's also, and that for me was even, coming from Chicago was a shock. I remember I brought up the Garifuna community earlier, and it's black people that speak Spanish like Mexicans. You got the little Caribbean flavor, it's a little different. I'm on the train, and I'm like, why is this dude speaking Mexican Spanish? And I had to talk to him, and I realized, my ignorance. I'm like, oh man, you Garifuna. So I think that even because of the immigrant diasporas that are in New York, it would be impossible. You know what I mean? You'd be dividing whole families. Yeah, and
I feel like the key too is to find points of unity. You know what I'm saying? Like in the work that we clear on the division that happens because of we see it in the media and Univision and Telemundo, the two biggest channels that are viewed by a Spanish-speaking audience in the United States. They racist. You don't see no people. You see all light-skinned Latinos on the TV. You don't see no indigenous-looking folks. You don't see no black folks. And you know that Latin America is majority black and indigenous, you know what I mean? So I think that it's important to identify those, those structures that create those divisions, and then start to find points of unity. We always, we had a joint called I'm an Alien, but we flipped the idea of being like an undocumented alien, like they call us, right? But one of the stories we always tell is the state of, I'll ask y'all so we'll do it. In the state of Georgia, what's the fruit in Georgia? Peaches. How about Washington? Apples, right? So in Georgia, they have all these anti-immigration laws that were passed, and they had less migrant workers that were coming to pick the peach crop because they were scared to get deported. The same thing was happening in Washington, where they didn't have enough. They passed all these racist, bigoted, anti-immigrant laws. You had less migrant workers going to pick the apple crop in Washington because they're scared they're going to get locked up. And so what happens in both of these states, because of the shortage in low-wage labor, they get, who going to pick their crops? Who picks the crops? Prisoners. So they, in the state of Georgia and the state of Washington, they put prisoners to pick the crops. You know, that sounds like plantation slavery to me. So when we talk about, for example, the immigrant rights movement, we can't separate it from, you know, this mass incarceration state that's, you know, attacking and targeting the black community in particular, you know what I mean? And we need to start to find out, you know, the same company that's building the wall on the U.S.-Mexico border is building the walls in Palestine. All right, so where do we start to make those links between, you know what I'm saying, the entire global South, really, you know what I mean? Because
or the same tear gas that was used on the young people in Ferguson and Baltimore from the same companies that sends tear gas to the kids in Palestine.
You know what I mean? So I think that once we start to like unpack those points of unity in conversation and dialogue, whether it be at the barbershop, whether it be, you know, on the ball court, I think those are important, you know, points to start bringing up that the mass incarceration state is targeting poor people, in particular black people, you know what I'm saying, and Latino people as well. So I think that that's...
And there's one real quick comment, because I can't not talk about it. Within the Latino community, there's a problem, I think, that we also got to address internally, which is the negation of our black ancestry. Oh, yeah. Like, folks be black as hell talking about, I'm a dark Indian. Like, no, you're not, brother, you're black. You know? Like, in the Dominican Republic, there's an actual, like, definition, like, Indio Oscuro. Like,
in the Dominican Republic, they deporting, you know,
Haitians.
And not just, you know, Dominicans of Haitian descent going back to 1928. So you can have a great grandmama that's Haitian, and because she didn't have papers when she came in,
she getting deported.
Deported.
So there's also issues that within Latino community needs to be addressed.
So you guys have to be conscious. Is COINTELPRO happening again? I mean, it seems like it will reproduce itself.
Yeah, I don't think it's ever public. I mean, I think publicly they say it ended, something of the past, but I definitely think that. I mean, we.
The question I was asking was about how is COINTELPRO reconstituting itself with the Black Lives Matter movement, the kinds of international movement you're talking about. I'm sitting here blown away that you're speaking openly. I'm like looking around. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, are you guys under all kinds of surveillance? Are you, you know what I'm saying?
Words recorded and everything.
Go ahead. No, I mean, you know, what was crazy is that you try not to fall into being paranoid, you know, but there's also, I think we also got to be, I mean, the beast that we're dealing with is very powerful, very deceitful, and at the same time very structured and organized, you know. I always think of like some of my young Lord elders who would call me at 5 in the morning and be like, wake your ass up, the Wall Street bankers are already, you know, up and disciplined and reading every single paper, and what are you doing with your life? And I'm like, it's 5 in the morning, you know? But within that same, you know, the idea is that we always have to expect the worst, because that's historically been what they've provided. And I think that, I mean, we're clear, it may have different formations, Homeland Security, the Patriot Act, you know, at Facebook, you know, surveillance, Fed books and stuff like that. In which we've made it a lot easier for them, you know. However, I do think that I'll share, you know, situations that we've had happen to us, and you know, we haven't been too vocal about it. But for example, when we went to Ferguson the first time, there was some comrades that had police scanners that were using them, and they were blowing us up like, yo, they keep talking about this green van from New York, which was our van. That weekend, every single van that was from New York, that had New York plates, got broken into. Laptops were stolen. There was like 4 or 5 vans that were from New York that got, you know. While we were leaving, I ended up staying behind because I went to an action, and the rest of our crew drove back, because we was about 12 of us, 17-hour drive, right? They called me up like, yo, you guys got to be careful. They're talking about this green van. Like, I'm hearing it right now over the scanner. And I called my crew. They're like, we're good. An hour and a half later, they called me from Indianapolis that their right back tire came off. Whoa. Check this out. The mechanic from Indianapolis, white working class mechanic, didn't know us from a hole in the wall, had no idea where we were coming from. He tells my brother, man, you must have a scorned lover or something. And my brother says, My brother says, what are you talking about? He says, in my 30 years as a mechanic, wheels don't just fall off. He said, somebody loosened your wheel, right? Mind you, this guy didn't have a clue of who we were, where we were coming from, what situation we was involved in, you know? So those are the type of things that you're like, you know. 2 weeks after our trip to Ferguson, that same van got broken into. And only laptops and hard drives, like, we had like DJ equipment, like if it was like a robbery, you could have got a lick. And they only took information based. You know?
And it's also documented that NYPD detectives were in Ferguson during the month of October. That's facts. Yeah. I think also it's clear to, like, we need to be clear that the empire has forever not only like manufactured consent through media and manipulation and mass media, but they manufactured dissent too. And you know what I'm saying? You see it in the Arab Spring on an international level. You had a lot of discontent amongst the young Arab population, you know what I'm saying? But a lot of that discontent was through, you know, these NGOs and these front groups for the CIA that's in these countries directing where that dissent is gonna go to create the chaos that we see today, to create this ghost of ISIS, you know what I mean, that allows the US to be like, we got a new boogeyman, you know, we killed off Osama, now we got a new boogeyman. Let them kill each other off, we'll fund both sides, and we go in and set up shop where we want to set up shop and put the fences around where we want to put fences around. So I think that we also, in particular in this new era of activism that's very social media based, that's based on a lot of individual personalities, I think it's important to look at the history of how the empire has traditionally manufactured dissent. We were with the brother Eddie Conway, political prisoner for 45 years, spent most of those years in solitary confinement, recently freed a year and a half ago, Baltimore.
Black Panther Party.
Baltimore Black Panther Party. He was telling us that the Baltimore chapter of the Black Panther Party was created, was formed, was initiated by informants. They started it. So, again, we need to be clear that that's the history. Sometimes I feel like, even with our case, it's funny because my bro talks about it, we never really like made a big deal about the whole tire thing because it's almost like you don't want to believe it. You're like, nah, because then if you believe in it, you're like, you know, and I remember during that trip, we had an older bro. Our older bro's a doctor, you know, so he did good in school. And so like, he my older bro, so I'm calling him up like, yo, man, you know, I don't even know what to think. They're telling us that there was like, you know, somebody was doing some foul play. And he was like, man, he real kind of machista with it. He's like, man up. He's like, man up, man, this empire goes and, you know, put syphilis in 20,000 women in Honduras. They go and you know, bomb entire villages in Palestine. There's no morality involved in this. There's no morality involved in this, and they got people that take care of some of the highest things up and down to the lowest lowly person. And it don't matter if you think you just an artist or activist. You got to automatically assume that those eyes are on you and that there's people in your cipher, you know what I'm saying? And I think that it's not about being paranoid, it's just about being realistic and clear about, because this is history, it's documented, it's still happening now, and the technology at their disposal is even greater than what they've had in the past.
And I want to be clear too that there's a distinct separation between an agent and an informant. You know what I'm saying?
Speak on that.
Agents, you know what I mean, most of the time are heavily trained, you know what I mean, are embedded 10, 15 years, a long-term plan, you know? With informants, those come quick. You know, I just caught
anybody that's vulnerable.
Your son is locked up, you know what I mean? You want to see us, you want to get your son out in the next 5 years?
Bring me this
Come
info.
on at me. I just pulled you over with an ounce of marijuana on you. All right, we're going to drop that charge. I need you to go handle this over here. You know, informants, and I say that because we have to be clear. You know, there's
got discovered.
You know, because of informants. When you look at, for example, the case of Chairman Fred Hampton, that man was given Kool-Aid that was spiked, which is why he slept through his death. You know what I'm saying? His head of security, exactly. You know what I'm saying? Exactly. So we're clear that there's different levels of COINTELPRO. It could be, you know what I mean, the informant that you think is just a brother hanging out. You know what I mean? Maybe police got something on him. You know, the agents are the ones, and I said this, for example, in the Puerto Rican independence community in Chicago, right? The majority of Puerto Rican political prisoners are from Chicago. There was an FBI agent who was so embedded that he even had kids with like the daughter of one of the political prisoners. Like, you that? Whoa. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's that deep. You know what I'm saying? So I share that because there's different levels, and we're 100% aware. And I think that we in a space where it's just like, we've been doing this for so long. It's like, you know, I'm out here. It is what it is.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for that question. We have a gentleman in the back.
You know, America's in horrible shape. I think the only way we can change it is not to vote for Democrats or Republicans, but to create a socialist party that takes power, a type of party that was advocated by Martin Luther King, by W.E.B. Du Bois, by Eugene Debs, and I could go on with other great, but the great Americans wanted one. I was wondering if you agree with me.
I think that on a national level, I think it's, you know, the Democrats, Republicans, is clear. It's two wings of the same bird. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
And I think I agree. I think it's not. I think it's folly to play into the charade. You know, we was clear that Obama from the beginning was a friendlier face for imperialism. And the reality is that you know, I also acknowledge that, you know, there's people in our community that are so vulnerable that perhaps a difference between a Democrat and a Republican in their specific condition in the very immediate is the difference between having food or not. That's right. Now, we recognize that. However, I think that putting our energies into, you know, the electoral charade, this electoral selection more than election, I think is a mistake. I think that, you know, that we've seen the extremes of like Trump and Sanders to be able to make everybody else in the middle seem a little more, you know, acceptable and friendly. And we know where the Wall Street's interests lie. I do think that on the local level, it's important to participate, you know what I'm saying? Whether it be, you know, independent or Democrats on a local level. But I would say that, you know, as a group that has traditionally, like, through our work, through our music, rejected electoral politics, I think that the time is now for a mass political party that is about forging unity. If you look at, you know, the struggles in the revolution in Cuba, if you look at the ongoing revolution in Venezuela, we've been blessed to be able to visit some of these spaces and see there's a building of the MST movement in Brazil, the Movimiento Sin Tierra, the peasant landless workers that are organizing. There is a need for something that's based on a mass program, you know what I'm saying? And the only way to do that, though, is to create points of unity, you know what I mean? And I think that then the examples, again, Venezuela, to create the electoral space that they needed to do to win that revolution through the bourgeois capitalist state, it had to do a lot of political building, a lot of meeting face to face and be like, all right, where do we stand? And real talk, I think is now a difficult time to navigate that. I think that we need to use like intersectionality in a manner that is for uniting, you know what I'm saying, and creating points of unity. I think that sometimes that we use it just on the surface, we tend to divide ourselves. But I think that if we look at, you know what I'm saying, have proper analysis of the state and a proper analysis of class and race, I think that that's the building blocks, you know what I'm saying, for creating a mass political party that's an alternative. But it got to start on a local level.
Just to touch on your point real quick, I think that would be amazing. I also think that a mistake that, from my years in organizing and just experience, mistake that sometimes some of the political parties that are socialist or communist, whatever, do, I genuinely think this is an honest critique, is that at times they come with the words and the rhetoric right away, and they're not meeting people where they're at. And when you deal with a mass media that socialism, communism is like a bad word, you from the initial interaction are closing the door from building with those young people. You know what I mean? And I say that because I've built with folks that come to the hood, and I just let it happen naturally. I mean, they gonna learn eventually. They roll up with their newspapers, and they're like, young man, revolution. And the kids are looking at them like, what the fuck is this? I'm sorry to use bad words. You know? So I share that. I think that to get to that process, I say to get to that process, there needs to be the groundwork of political education done so that young people understand what socialism even means.
That's right.
You know what I mean? And I share that because, through experience, I remember I used to come hard with it. Like I was young, I went to Cuba, I came back, I was ready for a revolution. I'm talking to the kids, they're like, man, what the hell are you talking about, my G? You wildin', you know?
We have young people who don't even know what capitalism is.
Yeah. So I think that a core step, and I think, I'll be real, I think that I'm super down, and I think I support what's been going on with Black Lives Matter, but I think that we're in a phase where we're almost being like anti-intellectual, you know what I mean? And I think that we have to sharpen the critique, we have to sharpen the analysis. We can't run away from, you know what I mean, having a sharp analysis, you know what I'm saying? And so I say that because, I think that when you're dealing with situations like California, I've had homies that are super activists that are like, man, bro, what about brown lives? And so we go into that conversation, and I get it, you know what I'm saying? But I think that when you're dealing with people that are in the community, you know what I mean? You gotta meet the community where it's at, you know what I'm saying? Otherwise, you're making the mistake of just, you end up preaching to the choir all the time.
Yes, sir.
And the real challenge is working with go work with youth. But the challenge with that is that the only way you can be successful in that is if you have consistency and you build trust. And I share that because too many times nonprofits and organizers hire people that don't even live in the hood that arrive, you know what I'm saying? And then the kids, we you know what I'm saying? And I say that because I've been guilty. For example, after we lost our community space, we had a storefront. In 2013, we had a whole summer in a block that wasn't around our crib, but it was and I remember that the landlord ended up, they kicked us out of that spot too. And my main beef with him was, man, these kids, they need the consistency. Because next summer, we're not gonna be here, and who's gonna be here for them, you know? So I felt like we failed those kids for that summer, reflection. We failed them youth by not having consistency, Because so many times that young people get they trust violated. Every authority figure, and whether it's the administrator or school, police officer, you know what I mean, they used to getting. So I say that, brother, I agree with you, we need a socialist party, but there's steps, and we gotta get them steps first before we get to that.
So we wanna hear from one of our youth in the place. Go ahead, please ask your question.
Okay, so I'm the captain of... Okay.
You do? Yeah, go ahead.
So I'm the captain of my CSU. Well, I go to Cleveland State, first of all. I'm a freshman in college. My name's Keishana Watkins, and I'm the captain of Cleveland State University Hip Hop Dance Crew. There's a dance team, and there's a dance crew. And, we also have, founders and presidents and boy captain, and I'm girl captain, and I wanted to know if you guys would be interested in coming to my school to help out my team, because we are trying to become a local dance team, not just school-based. We're trying to actually succeed our dreams. Dance is my minor, for one. I didn't know that was going to be my minor. I was going into marketing as my minor, but then something just told me, girl, you like to dance. You better dance. And since it can't be a major at my school, it's my minor. And I'm really interested in different types of dance. Next term, I will be taking Tap 1, Hip Hop 1, because now the school is just now having a hip hop class. So I'll be able to work on my footwork with tap dance and learn different hip hop moves, because I already know some. I break dance, I do body isolations. I'm learning how to do 6 steps now and bone breaking. So I'm kind of progressing, but I really would love if you guys came to my school, to help my team.
So what time is you have?
Okay, all right. That's how I want it. Thank you.
Yeah, we touched on it a little bit with the first question, but when you had those pictures up, you asked us, what do we see? We didn't really think about what we didn't see. So Missy Elliott just dropped a song. Talk about the women from the foundations of hip hop, because that was all masculine, very male, and kind of, at least mainstream hip hop, very homophobic, very transphobic, very machismo, and there's plenty of dope female MCs. Can you talk about how they are foundational, along with Kool Herc and everyone we saw in those pictures?
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. So, for example, one of the first known female MCs was Pebbly Poo. She's still in the Bronx. Then you had the historic battles, right? Roxanne Shante, the historic Roxanne battles. And I think that, like, I'll be clear. I think the rap music industry has also had a huge part in the marginalization of women. You know what I mean? When you look at some of, and I wasn't alive at that moment. I'm only basing off of what I've read or what I've, seen in videos or movies. But like, for example, even like Beat Street. You have Beat Street, us girls can boogie too. You know what I'm saying? Like, there was female MCs represented throughout that whole movie. Even with B-Girls, you know what I mean? There was B-Girls there from the beginning, And I'm not saying that as an excuse, because I think that even within our community, like, we have to look internally and say, yeah, there is a lot of, machismo, a lot of, homophobia. I think a lot of the homophobia also comes from prison, you know what I'm saying? I think there's a lot of homophobia even in the Caribbean community. You know what I'm saying? Like, we're talking about the Bronx being an Afro-Caribbean community. In the Caribbean community, there's a lot of homophobia, you know what I'm saying? Just that comes from part of their culture. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not justifying it, but I'm saying these are some of the roots that you see the results of in the lyrics and the music. But I think that there's definitely, I especially working with young people, I've noticed a distinct shift. You know what I'm saying? Like, I know, for example, when the artist Frank Ocean came out and said he was bisexual, amongst our young people, it was super accepted. Amongst some of the most like street kind of acting kids, you would hear them bumping Frank Ocean, and even in some of their like, it was like more accepted. And I say that more accepted than when I was a young man, like in the 90s, where it was super homophobic. The majority of the rap battles, and to this day, a lot of the rap battles have that homophobic language. But like, I'm like, if Frank Ocean would have been around in the 90s and came out and said he was bisexual, it would have been over for him. You know what I mean? Young people would have been unforgiving, I feel like, in that era. So I do think that society, there has been some type of a shift that I see in young people, and hopefully we see that more in the lyrics of some of the younger MCs that are coming out. However, I do think that we can't deny that that's a reality, you know what I'm saying, that's going on. And as cultural workers in the Bronx, the way we try to do it, for example, is we have open mics. And at the open mic, we have 21 names on the list, and we always make sure that at least, half of those names that are filled up have priority for young women. You know what I mean?
I would just put up on a couple of things. We failed to mention a story that's a part of Kool Herc's story. That's really important. Yes. Kool Herc, the reason why he's considered like the father or one of the founding fathers of hip hop is that he threw like this historic party in the community room of his project building on August 11th, 1973. And that's like that's got like under hip hop lore as like the first hip hop party. And Herc, he wasn't the driving force behind that party. It was his little sister, Lisa Campbell. Cindy, excuse me. And Cindy, she was the one that was like, yo, I need to get fresh for the upcoming school year. Like, Big Brother Herc, let's throw a party. You know what I mean? So it was her idea. And so, again, I think that just that initial example, you know what I'm saying, shows that the women was an essential component in terms of like organizing organizing that was going down. Specifically about our work to this day, I think that, we had experiences organizing in our neighborhood with our collective where we encountered those obstacles sometimes. Of, for example, having sisters come in, but they would take roles of either less leadership in the cipher or would not be like pushed, or they themselves wouldn't push themselves to be in like the stuff that was more technical. For example, DJs. We don't have that many sister DJs, you know what I'm saying? And what was cool is that just amongst the young people themselves, they started challenging themselves. And now, you know what I'm saying, to this day, because we don't have the building anymore, but we still, our collective in terms of the people is intact. And some of the younger sisters that started with us when they were 17, 18, now, early mid-20s, doing it up as DJs, as media makers. And I think that's also a testament to the younger crew of our collective that has been able to push that. Our DJ that we work with, DJ Charlie Hustle, we have a weekly radio program on WBAI on the Pacifica Foundation in New York, which is a pretty big station, 99.5. And the music that he plays is like literally, like more than half of it is sisters, is folks gender non-conforming hip hop that I'm like, he put me on every week to new stuff. You know what I'm saying? So that if some of y'all had mentioned about wanting to check out like different alternatives, every Wednesday from 10 to midnight, it airs on WBAI in New York and also on the web. It's a stream. There's some ill music that represents, again, I think a more diverse representation of our communities.
I think we could take just one last question.
Well, I'm not sure this is the question that we should end on, but you mentioned a lot of Central American spaces, and I'm very interested in if you have any connection at all to blue fields in Nicaragua, and or the hill people in Honduras, the people, campesinos up not in the cities. Do you have any relationship with them in terms of hip-hop?
Our biggest connection right now is we build a lot with the Garifuna community. There's 100,000 Garifunas in New York City. And Garifuna they have a crazy history because their very existence is testimony to the fact that there was African explorers before Columbus. You know what I mean? And just the existence is proves that. Yes, and they have a history of as far back as 1300 being on the island of St. Augustine in the West Indies and the Caribbean. So we've actually, through our project with the Rebel Diaz Arts Collective, we're working with an elder Garifuna musician who is singing songs that are literally hundreds of years old. You know what I mean? And so we are embarking on a project to document that music. Some of the young people also from our collective helping to, do some of the technical aspects of that, recording it. And that's a very collective music also. He's one of the main musicians, is Chichi Rolando Sosa, but it's a collective of musicians that make that music, parranda, different types of Garifuna music. So that's our biggest link. Is we've been really making an effort to create some spaces where that certain elements of that culture can be preserved and documented.
So I think we can bring this to a close, and
thank you guys.
And let's definitely continue to have conversation in the back where you all will be posted with
for sure. Thank you guys.
Merchandise.